Hi everyone, this is Milagros from the Thank You Plant Medicine movement. Today is my first YouTube video and I'm super excited because I'm going to interview Chris Dyer. He's a visionary artist. He is right now here in Peru and I'm so grateful that I can interview him. So let's go and I hope you enjoy this video. We're here with Chris Dyer. We're going to start this interview. Chris is a great visionary artist. He's my favorite visionary artist. And I'm so grateful to make this interview.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in your show.
Tell us a little bit about you. Who is Chris Dyer?
Well, my name's Chris Dyer and I'm an artist. I'm from here, from Peru, where we're at right now. But I also have been living in Canada the last bunch of years. And I do different kinds of arts, from skateboarding art to murals to psychedelic, visionary, explorative expressions from the heart. And here we are, right here, right now, enjoying the blessings of life.
And in this movement of gratitude to plant medicine.
Yes.
That has changed our lives completely. So,
yes, of course.
Tell me about a little bit about your journey with plant medicine. What was your first experience?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess my first plant medicine would be smoking weed. I think when I turned 18 years old, which is quite old for smoking weed these days, I had already moved to Ottawa, Canada at the time, because I grew up in Peru, but then I moved to Canada at 18 to do school, so I smoked weed with my friends, but it wasn't like a conscious ceremonial shanty situation. It was like your homies getting drunk, smoking a joint kind of mode, and that was the vibe for years, weed and then later mushrooms. It was always kind of like for the enjoyment of, shifting consciousness and just being more loose and free and all that stuff. Then I also, at age 18-ish, I did San Pedro, which is Peruvian. Once I came to Peru to visit my friends, we would go and steal the cactuses from the houses of our neighbors, and then we would cook it, and then we'd properly trip out in the beach and have a good time. Once again, not ceremonial, not conscious. I don't know if it's healing, maybe, because you never really know, but informational for sure. You start learning that there's other dimensions of reality that are not the normal physical kind. I'd say it didn't really turn into true medicine until maybe 21 years old when I went tree planting, and I think nature was my biggest medicine. Going tree planting in the north of Canada, realizing that life wasn't what I was told in the cities, and just realizing that I was nature and the world was nature, and that I had to change to the positive to save the life that was, there to create us all. And then when I would take mushrooms, then I'd kind of like see things from a different perspective that was more, higher perspective than just getting fucked up. So that's a little bit of my beginnings with psychedelics.
So the real change came from your contact with nature more than with plant medicine.
Right. Because with tree planting, you go and you plant trees and you're all day long just, putting your little trees, like 2,000 trees a day, in these lands where they deforested. And you start thinking like, whoa, this is what the world's made out of. This dirt, these insects, these trees, this air, and the nearest city is hours away. And it's like, oh, that's just a constructed reality that I grew up all the time in. And they're telling you what reality is about, but really it's just a bunch of masks and pre-constructed human culture stuff. So that's what kind of started. Like, I was always spiritual to some degree, but I was using religion as my surfboard to try to ride the spiritual wave. But that's another human constructed structure of trying to describe what reality is about. And with tree planting, I kind of like started finding the spirituality past human construction. So
the religion of the earth.
Right, totally.
So then that experience with tree planting, that was what shaped your later experiences with plant medicine.
Right. Once I would do mushrooms, and I had that kind of like mystical intention to it all, to start observing things from scratch as if it was a brand new baby, then the mushroom would give me that experience and be like, all right, I'm going to teach you what it is to be a tree. So now you're a tree. You're just chilling there and you're enjoying it, you're just being, and you don't need anything. How self-sustaining and satisfied yet giving you are to the world. Isn't that great? And it's like, wow, yeah. I never really appreciated a tree so much, and I've been planting them all day long. Yeah, and then it just kind of like, it was the beginning of my path back to positivity. I'm not going to say like I was a negative person. I think we're all positive, but um, the world kind of takes you on a bunch of loops that might make you do negative things. It's a self-defensive situation. All these dogs barking. But in the end, you know, through nature, self-observation, meditation, and psychedelics, I started making my way back to the light or the positive vibration side of things.
And do you think that your art has been influenced by plant medicine? Something changed in the way you do art after these experiences?
Right. So for me, art is a way of expressing what you're experiencing, how you see things, what you like. So when I see drawings of what I was into before it, there's certain visionary aspects where I'm like, oh, Chris understood energies to some degrees, or the power of manifestation, or he had love for cultures that came from imagination. But then after psychedelics, shit got a lot more trippy. Lots more colorful, weird, insectoid creatures started coming out, and I delved deeper into inventing my own creatures and stories and expressions of what I was into. As I was telling you earlier before when we were having lunch, I'm not very good at seeing. Like when I do psychedelics or mushrooms, at least at that point, I wasn't seeing things, but you know, I was having hallucinations, as we call it. But I have good imagination. It was only later on once I tried DMT and later on doing things like ayahuasca, there I started to see more clearly. So once you start seeing more clearly, then you can try to rescue a little of that and paint it. But for me, it's very difficult because once you go out there and you start seeing, it's more than meets the eye. It's overwhelming. It's ever changing. And you're also just like, oh my God, what the fuck? And you're not thinking, or at least I'm not thinking like, oh, I gotta like take a mental picture of this thing and that thing so I can do my painting tomorrow. Sometimes when I do that, right away the overhead God consciousness thing is like, what are you doing homework here? You're supposed to learn who you truly are. Fuck the homework. Let it go. Become your light vibration self. Don't think about like what painting you're gonna do tomorrow. That's like, that's the Chris of the ego and the real world that wants to do that. But there's better things to learn in this space right now. But once I start painting, subconsciously a lot of things come through, and I understand a new language, and certain things just come through, and then I'm like, oh, I think that's kind of came from that other dimension that I've been delving into the last 7 years. By now I've done ayahuasca like 38 times, which is not a ton, but it's enough that some things are starting to stick, or I'm starting to see certain patterns where I see it a few times and be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember seeing that weird perspective. Let's see if we can incorporate that in a painting. Once again, I'm trying to do homework while I'm there, but like, hey, once again, when you start recognizing certain elements, it's like, oh yeah, maybe like, because the other dimensions also tell me like, hey Chris, like, tell the world more about us. If you can paint it and you can like inform that we also exist and there's this other place other than the world that you guys can see in physical matter, you're doing a service to us. Not that they really care that much, but you're doing the service to humanity to tell them there's more that meets the eye. Once again, that there's places to be explored inside of ourselves. It's almost like visionaries are like advertisers for the other dimensions. Like, hey, come and check out this super trippy interdimensional world. Does this look cool? And once you're there, it's not that it's just like, well, it's so trippy and cool. It's more like, okay, we're here to school you and to clean you and to make you better, so then you can go back into the real world or the physical plane to become a better human and together manifest a better world for everybody else, which is, I think, is the ultimate goal.
But that mission of bringing back that kind of information, for me it was amazing because I was trying to remember what what happened in my DMT experience, and seeing your art was like, okay, that made me remember. So that information is something that we all can connect to, because I see your art and I can remember my own experience, and I can hear your art talking to me in that trippy language of tryptamines. And it's amazing because it's like everything is coming from one source. So it's like
I don't really even understand it myself. I'm wondering, like, is there a place that you see and then I paint it and it looks like that place? Or is it a vibe, and the vibe that I'm painting, the emotions, the colors, the general vibe that I've captured in my body that then gets expressed into a painting also carries that vibe? Is that just kind of like resonant to somebody who's being in that vibration? Because sometimes when I'm in the Aya state, it tells me, like, it doesn't matter what you paint. You could paint a Bob Ross landscape and it looks nothing trippy, but that's also an ayahuasca painting if it has that vibration of oneness, of connection to the multiverse. And art's a beautiful way to try to connect people, because it doesn't matter what language or religion or culture you are. People will see it and be like, oh, I can feel that vibe, I resonate to this, and then they're open to it, because you're not telling them like, ooh, I'm this and that, or they don't even know what I look like they're not judging me or what they think I am. They're looking at the painting, and it might be a mirror reflection to them that's totally different from what I was trying to say, but it does something to them. While if I use my words, which I think is as important, when I come back from my journeys, I always put the camera and I start just blabbing like, oh, last night I was chilling with ayahuasca and she told me that we should be good people and start hating each other and stop this whole judgment and self-judgment and etc. So I'll go off for like a while, and people enjoy those videos that I do on Instagram too. But then right away people are judging like, oh, it's like a white dude with dreads. So right there I'm like judging him, and he's speaking English, and he's Canadian or half Peru. And so basically they're just disqualifying me on a bunch of mental ways why the vibrational information I'm trying to transfer is no good. But when you look at a painting, you don't even know who painted it. You just see like, whoa, that looks trippy. He's probably like me. So
But when you do those videos, like for me, when you did that video of 2 parts in Instagram,
right.
and I was listening to it, and I was like, wow, that's exactly how I feel in my Bufo experience on my DMT. So although some people will judge, there's people like me that feel happy and feel grateful because we can relate, we can,
Right.
someone else knows what we have known, what we have discovered in these experiences. So it's very supportive.
Right, I try my best, and I put myself out there, and I know some people will judge, but that's part of the lessons, not to give a fuck of what people will judge me for. It's like that's their process, and I'm just trying to go through my process of letting go of my own self-judgment and caring of the judgment of others, so we can all just be liberated and free and loving and giving and make a world that comes from that vibration of love. So I'm just trying to do my part. The last series of ceremonies I did in Tarapoto like a month ago. I'm always trying to work myself because I got a lot of issues to work through and insecurities, and I'm just trying to become better. But last time I was like, I don't even care about my issues. Fuck it. Like, okay, I'll always be imperfect. I'm caring about the world right now. It was 2020. It was a difficult year. Everybody's looking for some answers and some messages from the medicine, and no one can even make it to the jungles anymore and do the medicine. So I felt like I had to do homework for everybody else and just really be like, okay, this is what she's telling us, which is the same thing that she's always been telling us. Just be good people, fuck. If we stop being jerks to each other, I think we got a better chance.
Be love.
Right.
Be love. That's the ultimate message, I think.
Right.
So when do you think visionary art started?
Oh, visionary art is the first art in the world. Yeah, visionary art, I believe, started in the caves.
In the caves.
When as soon as people could do some graffiti, they were doing it, on their cave walls, and they were doing some trippy psychedelic shit, some half-man, half-human entities, and mandalas, and I'm sure people were doing plant medicines and psychedelics back then, and they're trying to communicate it in any way they could, including artistically. And then it's around history, even in religious art, and there's different cultural art from all around the world. I think visionary art is, as long as something has soul and it comes from spirit, that is visionary art, and it's got a million flavors. And sure, there's the visionary art we're thinking about is just like interdimensional visions of other dimensions past the physical realm. But I think there's plenty of that in the history of humanity, and I think it's not something new or a cool cultural thing that came out of trippy hippies and festivals. It's something that's part of humanity, and I would like to believe it's also the art of the future, because it's the art that's trying to give us a blueprint of our transmutation into God-embodied humans, like humans that are in the physical realm, but that know that we're also God, the creator, on the other side of reality, trying to experience this through us, and just to have fun and enjoy.
Do you believe in past life?
Yeah, totally.
And do you think you have been practicing your art through many lifetimes? That like this is something that you have been doing in other lifetimes also?
Um, I don't know if I was an artist. Sometimes I like to dream that I was Frida Kahlo in the last life.
What?
I'd like to dream that I was Frida Kahlo in a
Frida
previous
Kahlo.
life. But I've been told I've been a witch in a past life. I've been told I was in Egypt, but I was the servant of my ex-wife at the time. There was a life where I got abused in some kind of Mexican ritual. Uh, I've never been told I was actually an artist, but I don't see why not. I think there's a creative energy in my essence, and may it come out as a painting or as in some other creative endeavor. I don't see why not. There's probably 100 or more lifetimes that I lived, so I'm sure I've touched the brush before.
Definitely. Have you experienced past lives in plant medicine?
Um, I don't really see it clearly, but I feel a vibe. And when I've been in ceremony with my shaman or curandero healer, Carlos Quinteros, I feel that in a past life I was his healer and he was part of my tribe. And in this life, he's my healer and I'm just part of his tribe. And in this life, I don't want to be a shaman or curandero. It's not like it doesn't resonate. There's something in me that could follow that path, but I just don't want to do it. It's a lot of hard work, and I don't take it lightly. I'd rather be the one passing on a vibration, and then in ceremony, I almost feel like I'm like an amp, like you inject the guitar, and it's kind of like shoots out energy extra. I feel that's kind of like my role in a ceremony. I'm kind of just there holding space and like expanding extra vibes around silently.
That's kind of a shamanic work.
Right, but I'm not the one sitting in the center, and people are not coming to me and be like, "Hey, Chris, what should I do?" I'm just kind of like, "Well, I'm going for my shit too," but I'm also kind of like activated and fucking shooting goodness and love and healing to everybody else.
And your art also is kind of healing. Like for me, it was really amazing to find it.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure that for many people it's the same.
Thank
So
you.
it's kind of
Well, I do it to heal myself first, because that's who's doing it about and for. But since I'm not alone, since I'm everybody else to some degree, then other people can resonate and find healing through it, which is so awesome because, by chance, I can heal myself and then I can heal others. Then what a great service I can do at the same time. So,
when you heal yourself, you heal also humanity because we are all one. So
right. So at the end of the day, instead of going out there and telling her, like, hey, everybody's got to do this and like you got to follow this perspective or do this work, I just want to shut up and just do my own work because I got so much to go still. And if I can get anywhere further on my path, then that pulls the energy of everybody else closer to that, makes it easier for them, and vice versa. So other people are doing their work and they're getting better to their enlightenment. That makes it easier for me to get there too.
I know ayahuasca is your favorite plant medicine, if you can call it favorite.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that?
Well, I'm not. Favorite sounds like I'm having a blast with it, and it beats other. I say there's other psychedelics that are more fun to do. And ayahuasca can be fun. There's moments of fun, and definitely it gets me very past my being. So I appreciate that. But it's the one that has brought me the most healing, and in a safe way. Because there's other psychedelics where I feel if I feel, and I'm not sure because I'd actually have to do it in order to confirm that. But I feel if I did a lot of acid, it could throw me off in my inner balance and my composition of my brain. I feel like I could go off and maybe start seeing things from a schizoid, paranoid way, as weed sometimes even does for me. Sometimes if I smoke too much weed, it fucks me up. It takes me out of my balance and makes me see things from a negative perspective, which is not what I'm looking for. Well, ayahuasca, even though it beats me up and it takes me deep into my suffering sometimes or my pain, it still can, when I'm in that pain, I'm still observing it from a higher perspective of like, hey, like, you see how you're suffering, you see how that's not you, how you're above it, how you're still alive. Let's learn from this. Let's do the shadow work in a way that you come out of this stronger and liberated and freer, and we're going to purge it out. you know I don't get damaged by it, I get healed by it. Well, other psychedelics could fall either way. Before we were talking about Bufo, before lunch, and though Bufo did a lot of positive things for me, it was tricky, and I could have fallen at any side of the positive or the negative. It was almost like throwing the dice, and maybe I got a 6 or maybe I got a 1. And at the beginning, I thought I got a 1, and it's like, oh no, I fucked up. I should have not gotten into a video game that I didn't know was so hard to play. And but luckily, in the end, the dice gave one more roll and it fell on the 6. So yeah, I'm safe.
And do you think ayahuasca has a spirit that is like an entity outside of just the plant or yourself or whatever is happening inside, just like a spirit that can manifest herself?
It's a really good question. I'm always trying to figure out what ayahuasca is, because when you look at it, it's a root, and then all of a sudden you're on a fucking table being operated by aliens, and they're just all moving your energy, and then all of a sudden it's a picaflor hummingbird going all around you, showing you mirrors of yourself, and then all of a sudden you're in another galactoid like universe where everybody's in a matrix, and you're like, oh my shit, and all of a sudden you're God, and you see how you're the guy on the video game chair controlling everything, and that Chris Dyer is just an avatar. So I'm like, what the hell is ayahuasca and all of this? Is she a portal for me to become God, and I was God all along, and it's God actually who's doing the work, and ayahuasca is just a root that actually opens up that? Or is ayahuasca an entity that's trying to like facilitate the thing? Or is it both? Or is it even more? I don't know. I cannot answer that question, but it's giving me a lot of different faces along the way.
So I have heard with, I don't know, with Huachuma that is like el abuelito, the grandfather, and he's loving, and with the mushrooms that are like very playful, and they are called the Niños Santos because they're like childs. And do you think that mushrooms have a spirit, and that Huachuma has a spirit?
Well, I haven't done too much Huachuma other than that experience I told you when I was like 18, 19. And mushrooms, you feel like a child because you're seeing everything from fresh, But also, mushrooms have turned into ayahuasca for me. Now, if I take enough mushrooms, I know I'm going to an ayahuasca ceremony where I'm just sitting there and I'm purging and I'm crying and I'm yelling. It's not like, hey, let's run around and look at flowers like it used to be when I was in my college days. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say like, oh, ayahuasca is a lady and mushrooms is a child, because it's a lot of things. It just opens up the possibilities for the child to come, or actually some elders might come too, and they might be doing their work at that time. And ayahuasca sometimes presents herself as a lady that hugs you and tells you good things, and other times it comes out like an insect, like a praying mantis, or a bunch of beings, or all of them, or some Native American elders that are all trying to work you and operate you. So it's just so many things, and I have a hard time like defining it.
They are spirit for sure.
Right, it's the oneness of everything.
The oneness. And do you think they have been put on this earth for a reason, these plants?
Right. I find like psychedelics, it's like we're playing a video game, and sometimes the video games are tough, so sometimes there's cheats, you know? Like in Mario Bros. 3, you might find that flute in that first castle, and that warp zones you a little bit. You could still beat the game by doing level 1, level 2, level 3, and then get to level 4. Or you can fly up to the top of that castle, grab the flute, and then you go straight to level 4. But there's still level 8 waiting for you, so it's not like you warp zone certain steps. And because those, ceremonies can sometimes be like a lot of learning. I had some great ceremonies last year actually in Canada. I finally did, ceremonies in Canada for the first time, the country where I actually live in, because we're not able to travel, and I was really needing it. And they were really long, heavy, strong ceremonies. Like my body just could barely handle anymore. It's just like, enough. I'm so tired. But God's like, no, you gotta get this lesson. You gotta get this lesson. You gotta come out of this knowing that you are me, and that you don't have to be bummed out, and you gotta turn the page on these things, motherfucker. Like, so yeah, so those warp zones doesn't mean you're just kind of skipping on the bad thing. It's just that it's giving you like, like a couple months or years of hardness in a couple hours, where you're like, what the fuck am I doing to myself now? This is so hard. Why would I even come back here and do this kind of work? But then once the next day happens, you're just like, holy shit, okay, yeah, no, I feel better in myself. I know who I am, and this is super important. And I want to live free and liberated and happy, and I will go through those moments of struggles in order to get there. It's a worthy investment.
Those moments come always. For me, it's the same. It's like once I'm in the medicine, I'm like, why am I am here again? And then a few hours later, it's like, thank you so much for that experience.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's not for the weak or the lazy or the magic pill of enlightenment. People are actually doing work, and it's not like you do it at ayahuasca once and you're done. You got to do it like over and over again. You're just like, fuck, gotta go back there, gotta do these things. It's not easy. But once again, I do it out of self-love. I do it for the love of the world. What else I'm gonna do? Just sit around and just let the life go by and whatever. No, I gotta do this work. But once again, I don't want to get into the judgment of people, but a lot of people will judge people who do psychedelics like, oh, they're just going out there and getting fucked up, and they're not really doing the real work and stuff. It's like, no, it's just a different kind of work. It's very warrior styles, because you get beat up.
of course, and it's the real healing. I think it's the future of mental health, because for me it worked like anything else. It's much easier to go to a psychiatrist and take a pill every day, but go and face yourself and face your demons and face your relationship with God, because you are God. It's really difficult, and it's not like party stuff.
It's not a party drug, no.
No way. I don't think psychedelics are party medicine.
Some can be.
in small doses.
Right.
Small doses, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. What do you think about cannabis? Because you said something that it wasn't always like a positive experience.
Yeah, fuck, weed, man. It's a tricky woman. She's sticky. I loved her. I've had great moments with her, but it feels almost like an old girlfriend, where like there's no reason for me to hate her. We had great moments, and everything's blessed, and I learned some great lessons, but I can't always be going back to her. I don't know. It's different for different people. Some people, it's great medicine. For me, it's moments where it's giving me great moments of perspective and change and vibration uplifts. But because of the stickiness, there's an aspect of me, and that's my own fault, that's addictive. And I want more. I want more of that good stuff. And then I'm doing it every day, and then I'm doing it many times a day. And then like, who's being happy here? Am I being happy because I'm happy, or is the weed just like masking some kind of sadness to replace it by a buzz of happiness? And is that even really true happiness if like the plant medicine is going to be giving it to me? And yeah, I don't know. If I'm abusing her, will she abuse me? And there's the paranoid side of things. For me, it's a reality that I get paranoid. I don't know if it's the weed that gives me the negative thoughts, or if it opens up a certain vibration where negative thoughts that are already in me float up and then start influencing my brain's neural net. So if I start thinking in that pattern every day, then that's how I start thinking. And I don't want to start thinking that way. So I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'm getting a good buzz right now, but my brain's being rearranged in a way I don't prefer. I want to be like alert and open and really present in my being, and everything just like smart as a laser, not all faded. And that's another thing about weed I don't like. I get very faded and cloudy, and I get kind of dumb. And once again, this is just me. I'm not saying other people have to live that way, but I get really dumb, and then I'm just like, oh, man, like I just want to really be like, not that like intelligence is the essence of my being, but as a communicator, I want to be clear in the things that I say. I want to use the right words. I want to not confuse it in any way. And if I'm smoking weed every day, I'm not so on point, really, in total honesty. So I consciously choose to not smoke it, and sometimes I do. Before I came to Peru on this trip, I was dating a girl, and she was smoking weed, and started smoking weed with her, playing video games, and doing all these fun things, and it was a blessing. But I also knew, like, you're starting to slip and making mistakes a certain way. So once I went to the jungle and I did my dieta and ayahuasca ceremonies, I was like, what is this? Get it out. And then it was out, and it's like, okay, you're clean now, Chris. It's up to you if you want to keep your vehicle clean or if you want to put it back in. Sometimes I think like, well, I'm going to the jungle next month. Maybe I should just smoke weed this month. She's going to get it out anyway. But then I'm just abusing weed, and I mean, I'm just abusing Aya as my car cleaner, and she's like, come on, Chris, we could be cleaning deeper things, and instead of every time you come in here and cleaning your borracheras and your alcohol and your weed situation, which you should learn and be wise enough to like have at a balance. How about we go deeper and we get out those early childhood trauma dirt, or maybe some past life trauma. Let's get that much deeper. Don't put these barriers in front of me, dude. So yeah.
So weed is kind of addictive, and psychedelics are not addictive. There are different plant medicines, because with psychedelics they are non-addictive, because you have to really like take the courage to go and have the experience. But weed, no, weed is something that you can do every day.
Right. Once you get the hang of it and you get your tolerance up. For me, it's addictive. For other people, they can do it for a month and then stop, and it's like, wow, that's so great. You got that power. To me, if something's got me on a roll, I want more of it. I want that happiness, especially if it's easy. And psychedelics could be addictive if I got my tolerance up and it's not kicking my ass. I know maybe not ayahuasca, but even like the good vibe that you get from ayahuasca, I want more of that. You know what I mean? And maybe I can't do it right away because I just came from a batch, but there's something in me that's like, I want more of that. But it shouldn't be out of this like lack. Like, oh, I'm feeling so bad about myself because I haven't done my homework, so where's Aya to rescue the day? No, Aya's is going to reflect what you should do in your sober life, and then you got to integrate and do the work and find that happiness on your own. So it could be addictive, but I definitely don't want it to get that way.
No, it's hard work to be addictive.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard work. Good. So the integration part, I think, is really, really important. And how do you integrate Aya's teachings in your daily life?
Yeah, well, definitely artwork is a way that, like, I'll paint paintings that mean something in relationship to the lessons that I've been given. And just live my life, give it some time. Usually I do my ceremonies at the end of the year at the center where I do my retreats. And then I just, sometimes the ceremonies come at me like randomly in the middle of the year. But basically, I give them some months. Like my next ceremonies will be in March in a couple of months. Usually I give it more time, but that's just how the programming of my art and medicine retreats have been working out. And the integration is just living my life from the point of view of the lessons that I've been given. It's like, hey, Chris, you're this. See yourself as this. And challenges come every day. But today already had challenges where my mind's like, oh, you should feel like this because this happened. And I gotta be like, no, I know who I am. I know how I feel. Please, mind, leave me alone. And the mind's always gonna come back. And I just gotta keep on like swatting the mind thoughts like a bug that keeps on coming back. And I don't know if I'll ever get rid of that little fly that likes to come back and trying to suck in my energy and make me think as itself. But I think the integration is that rhythm of always being present, like, no, I know who I am. Please leave me alone. I'm standing firm in my God self.
That awareness.
Not drive the vehicle. You know, that somebody told me that the mind could be like a little doggy that's following you around and it's always around there, but it's not driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
So the mind will always be there. We need it in order to, like, you know, be in this physical world. But I don't want it to like be driving me. I want to drive me. But that takes presence.
What is the most challenging experience that you have had with plant medicine?
Well, I guess my Bufo experience was pretty challenging. I was in Mexico and I was painting for a festival, and then I was invited to paint at an indigenous and visionary art museum in Irapuato. And the owner was serving Bufo. He was trained by the Seri tribe of, you know, the Sonora Desert of Mexico. He seemed like a really nice guy. He is a really great guy, and it was all good and very shamanic. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, this guy seems like I can trust him, and I'll do the Bufo, and it's DMT, and I do ayahuasca, so I know how to surrender to the slap of ayahuasca. It's cool. I think I can do this. And then I did it, and it was like I'd explode into 1,000 pieces, and it was more than I expected. I've gotten to the light world with ayahuasca, but she takes you as a ladder, step by step, and then she's like, "Are you ready to let go? Are you ready to let go?" Okay, and then you become. But with Bufo, it's just like, "Okay, here I am, Chris Dyer." It's just almost like too quick, and it's like almost like it can make you snap in the way you go so high so quick. And when I came back after who knows how much time, I don't remember anything, you're kind of like in shock, and you're like, what the fuck happened? What? I don't know. My body thought I died, and it was not happy with me. It was like, why did you kill me? You know, like,
you were in pain? You were feeling
no,
bad?
not pain, but it was like my ego and my body was not happy with me, and it just started having a lot of flashbacks all day long, and then at night I couldn't sleep. I was getting panic attacks, and all this fear was just coming up from like my depths. Fear that maybe was like just kind of buried. It all came to the surface, and I had to handle it all by at once, and it was really difficult. And I was like, oh shit, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done something. I didn't know what it was, and now I'm all having these panic attacks. I can't sleep at night, and luckily, by chance, we went to another town the next day, and these artists wanted to meet me, and I was just like sitting in the car all bummed out, being like, oh my god, what's gonna happen to my life? It's all gonna go down the drain because I'm in such a fearful vibration that nothing good can come from this. And these artists came, and they're like, hey, Chris Dyer, we want to meet you. And then they looked at me, and they're like, whoa, you look spooked, man. And I was like, I'm fucking spooked. And he was like, okay, come upstairs. And they started doing a ceremony around me, blowing some sage and palo santo, and doing some prayers and spitting some agua florida. And then the guy, because it was a couple, started sucking my neck, and then he would go outside and throw up and then come back and suck. So basically he was sucking all my negativity and come up to the float and getting it out. And after that, when I went back to the car, I felt so much peace and goodness, and I was happy again. So I was still really like DMT high, interdimensionally open, but I felt really good about it. You know, it's like, oh my god, I fell back onto the positive side. And that night I let myself fall asleep, even though it was like a very lucid dreaming state, and the entities of the Bufo started operating on me and gave me experiences and feelings that I don't really understand what it's all about, and that continued like every night. And there's a lot more to that story. I could go on for like an hour, but
That continued every night for how long?
for like a week.
Wow.
So I'd have my normal days, like once I went back to Canada and started my normal days, but at night I go to sleep and boom, back into the other world, and they're teaching me things, and I'm just like, what the hell is all this alien stuff? I can't even really understand, but it felt expansive, it felt positive, it felt like they were activating me to the next level for me to have more positive experiences in my life and to learn to have this feeling of letting go. You know, when my body starts tensing up because there's something that scares me, it's like, no, let it go. Like, you know, relax, release, and yeah, don't.
So that was a teaching of Bufo, the letting go. Okay. So
Which I'm
good.
still trying to work.
Something good came.
Oh yeah, lots of good things came, but it was like rolling the dice.
Would you say that plant medicine has make your relationships like better with not only with yourself but with your family and friends?
Yeah, no, definitely, because plant medicines in general have always told me about the oneness of reality, how we're all one, how I should love everybody as ourselves, like that every moment should be happy if you allow it to be, because we are the creator on the other side of reality, and we're just here experiencing the physical plane, and it's cool and it's very real to us and it's got lessons, but in the end we could always see it from their perspective too, and just enjoy the most to our capacities. And yeah, so that's made me get along better with people. Or like if people attack me, I'd be like, well, they're also God. Like I don't want to hate anyone anymore. People might annoy me, but it's like, okay, but they're still also God. They're just a different reflection and whatever. And I'm annoying too, so who cares? Let's just forgive everything and everyone. And in the end, we all go back to the same place, and the video game has already been won, and we all just go back to bliss for eternity. But in the meantime, for a couple billion years, we can all pretend to be different things and do different activities and, you know, love each other, hate each other. It's all experience, and God gets to live it all through us to see what reality is all about. Because He knew it all, but He had to live it in order to actually really experience it, and we're giving Him that gift to ourselves.
So I think that for me, the improvement in the relationships came from a place of the ego death, you know, because once you experience that oneness and that you really are just one expression of this ocean that is God and you're just one drop, then you cannot take things personally because we're all one.
Right.
So that would you say that is the healing power with relationships in plant medicine, the ego death experience?
Right. When we see ego death, I don't want to kill the ego. I almost feel like you're just trying to like humble it or like put it in its place. Because the ego shouldn't die. We all need an ego in order to surf the wave of physical reality. And I want to love my ego. It's like, hey, ego, hey, you're my buddy. Like, I want to befriend it, and hug it and transmute it and heal it and let the ego also be happy about its own role in this video game we're all playing. So, yeah, I don't want to kill it or have it to have a death. I just want it to know its place, and the ego shouldn't be the driver of the car. I'm the driver of the car, and you can be at the side, and you can talk to me all day and be like, no, I still want to go down this alley. Thank you very much, ego. I love you. Don't feel, bad. I am what I am, and this is what I'm doing.
But have you experienced the ego death? Have you experienced the complete dissolution of your identity as Chris Dyer?
Well, that would be the Bufo. That was like where it got destroyed along me, the observer of it. So that's why it's hard for me to even say that happened, because I wasn't even there anymore, to even observe that I wasn't even there anymore. And that's why I was so confused on the way out, and even in panic and shock and in total fear, because who am I without this ego surfboard to ride the wave of physical plane? So do I need to kill this thing? Like, or should I just accept that I got this surfboard and it's got some kinks and I just gotta work with it? I don't know. Like, when I go into the ceremony space and I'm trying to work through my issues, a part of me is like, you gotta win, you gotta become brave and you gotta be free, and to be free you gotta do this and that and blah blah blah. And it's like, but that's also ego. That's an ego that wants to prove that it can be free and godly and spiritual and all these things. So the more I have that inner battle, the back and forth between God and the ego playing this endless game of chess, and who's going to win over Chris Dyer, who's just sitting in the middle being all like, can I just be chill now? I'm just kind of like, fuck it, I'm imperfect, I got traumas, I got issues, I got fears. You know what? I'm not even going to fight anymore. You know what, Chris? I love you with your fears and your traumas and your issues, and just, that's who you are. Fuck it. You don't have to do anything other than just accept and love whoever you are, and that is perfection. And the idea of like, oh, you'll only be a brave shamanic warrior, this and that, when you can do this. And fuck. I make my own definitions now, and it's just about self-acceptance. I'm letting go. I'm letting whoever wants to win. I don't even know if it's God or my mind. I'm just kind of like, ugh, I'm tired of fighting myself.
Love yourself.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right. So I'm just kind of like letting it be, flowing, accepting, and enjoying life as it is.
Why do you think plant medicine has such strong healing powers?
Why? That is a great question. I don't think I can answer that one. I'm like, wow, how did that get into that root? How did that get into that mushroom? How did that portal? Once again, we got to observe what these things are. Like, is it like a true entity? Is it like a whole race of aliens got into a root? Or like, what is it? I don't even know what it is. So if I don't know what it is it a portal? Is it a chemistry that opens up a side of my brain that activates that side of me? If I don't truly understand what it is, I don't know how it even got there. So sorry, I got no answers.
But maybe that self-love is what has the healing, that strong healing powers, especially for things like addiction or depression or anxiety, because that's lack of self-love.
Right. So I'd say, like, if we look at it from what it tries to do to us, it's like basically God trying to remind itself it's God through becoming love. So if you tell me what it is, it's a portal to opening love and God. And who put it there? Love and God put it there. So that the one that consumes it can remind itself of that it is love and God.
And love and God put it there for us to remember that we are love and God.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Something like that. Gotta make a T-shirt that says that.
Yes, because that's how you feel. It's like, for me, it's like, okay, you are here to teach me that I'm God, so you're here to make me remember something that I don't know when I forgot. I don't know if when I was in my mother's womb or maybe when I was a child, but definitely plant medicine helps me remember that I am God.
Right. But I think it's awesome that we forget, because if we forget, then we can remember. And when you remember, you're like, what? Cool. I'm God? No way. And you gotta go back and back and back and be like, nah, you fucking joking me. I'm not the creator of the universe. Get out of here. That's just my ego that wants to think I'm all super cool. But you keep on going there.
But we are.
And it keeps on telling you like, nah, dude, you are me. And all this cool stuff. And you're just like, what?
We are all creators of the universe and of reality and of God.
You're right, and it's not like this ego, like, ooh, I'm so cool, and God, and Jesus, and this, or that. It's not like I'm better than anything else, because everybody else is also that. So it's like, but you guys are too! We're all this super cool thing, and we're manifesting through the physical plane, and let's just enjoy. What are we doing fighting each other, wasting our times, destroying and causing pain, when we could just fucking have a good time, and making sure that while we're having a good time, we're sustaining the nature that helps us have a good time. Like, let's be smart here.
Has plant medicine show you something about death? Teach you something about dying or death?
Right. Well, when you do a strong ceremony, you die in a way, and a new you is born. You go back to being your body and your being, but it feels like something has changed. And when you're in that place, you kind of like get out of time and space. So what is the self if it's not in time and space? So in a way, you did actually die, or an aspect of you took a pause button on the video game to observe it from the outside. But I don't. It'd be kind of like, cocky of me to say I don't fear death anymore. My instinct is to avoid death, and I'll try my best not to die because I'm enjoying being in the physical plane and living. But at the same time, I don't observe death as a negative thing anymore, because you never really die. You're an eternal being, and if anything, once this physical plane dies, that's full of pain and limitations, you go back to being this eternal, infinite God of full bliss and oneness, and that's a lot cooler and better. So when people die, I don't get that bummed anymore. It's like, oh, they died. Wow, they're lucky. They go back to being all eternity and infinity in all bliss. Like, that's pretty awesome and kick ass. The only one who's gonna be bummed out is, I guess, like me, because I don't get to hang out with my buddy anymore, or his personality, or his ego character avatar. But in the end of all reality, we can all go back and probably access any moments we want, or maybe we're accessing it right now. Maybe we already finished the video game and we're just accessing it right now as a memory, but it feels real when we're doing this, because then, because we got that power of God to do that too. Maybe reality already happened and this is all memory. I don't know. But back to what I was saying, yeah, death is not that bad of a thing. So in this whole, like, right now we're in the whole corona pandemic thing, and yeah, we all want to avoid having our parents die. I don't want my parents to die, or my friends, or anyone to suffer. We do what we can, but we're just living with this obsession of like, death is the ultimate horrible, most terrible thing to happen, and we will live a life of shit locked in our houses with no friendships and loves and sunlight and no nothing, just so we can hold on to dear life. And it's like, what the fuck's the point of living if I can't really truly live? And of course, let's protect the weak, or anyone who really doesn't want to. But I don't mind, traveling the world. And if it's my turn to die, well, I guess I gotta just accept it and go back to infinity and eternity and bliss. And knowing that at least I lived a life that meant something, that had purpose and freedom. And so that's what's really annoying me about this current pandemic situation. They're telling us, like, you should only really do this if you're a good person, and I don't buy it, and I think a lot of other people also don't buy it. But you're a jerk if you ever even speak up. Sorry, I turned it into politics, but we're in this right now, and I just right now I just want to bring my students to Peru so they can do ayahuasca ceremonies and make some art with me. And Peru keeps on putting all these restrictions that don't allow them to come in, so they're not getting their healing. They're just staying at home for the rest of their lives, and that's not that's not staying healthy. They're going crazy there. There's so many people who are really getting harmed psychologically, and there's systems to help them, and they're getting blocked because they say that if you go there, you will die or propagate death. And I just don't buy it fully. We can still be careful without, while still doing our things.
And now in COVID, I think it is more than ever that we need these medicines to help us.
Totally.
Because mental health is having a really hard time right now. We're in a crisis, and
if they're going to lock us in our homes forever, at least make it legal, mushrooms legal. Not even ayahuasca, because ayahuasca is like a different dragon to ride. But let people buy mushrooms. They can do a gram or two in their living rooms, and they can cry it out. They can purge. They can scream. They can get some energy out, and then find some peace to keep on going through the struggles of not seeing people, and loneliness and separation and breakups and etc., 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 losing your jobs, not being able to fend. There's just so many negative things coming from this tactic of lockdowns. So yeah, putting it on the record, I'm not down with lockdowns, and if you judge me, well, that's on you.
Unless we can go with mushrooms being legal, unless we can travel inside. We can go outside, but we can travel inside.
Right. Well, the psychedelics and plant medicine should never be illegal to start with. Inform people. They shouldn't just drop situations and psychedelics randomly at any point, because that's just harmful for yourself as well. Like, just inform people, teach them, give people some credits. Like, oh no, if they're legal, everyone's just gonna kill themselves with it. Once again, they're treating us like a bunch of babies. Like, oh, if we let you go out of your house, you're just gonna cough in everybody's faces. It's like, no, man, come on.
Yeah, they should be legal, unless for therapists or facilitators to do their ceremonies, and people can go to a place where someone knows what they are doing.
Right, because we don't, when we're doing ceremonies, we also don't want to get sick, so we use separate cups. There's protocol, and even getting into Peru, when I came here at the beginning of the year, I had to take a COVID test to go in. And then I'm in. It's like, okay, I got no COVID. I go in, and it's all good. Now they changed the rules that you have to sit in a hotel for 2 weeks in Lima. And what tourist who wants to go to the jungle for a week wants to sit in Lima in a hotel room for 2 weeks? They're just putting a big wall between ayahuasca and foreigners. And that's a sad situation, Like, well, if you're gonna do that, at least like legalize it in the northern regions and the other countries, and let shamans go out there and help the population that's struggling right now. A lot of people are struggling. Let the medicines get to the people.
I hope that will happen soon.
Right.
So, what message would you give to someone that is starting with plant medicine? Advice.
Yeah. Somebody who's starting with plant medicine, I say don't get too excited. There's some cool aspects, but chill, take it easy. Don't blow your wig off. Take it one step at a time. Do it responsibly. Do it with a lot of respect. Inform yourself well. How much is good to take. Ideally, with a practitioner or shaman or a guide, somebody who knows what's better than just like buying something online, doing it on your own. It gets risky, Like you're playing with fire. Even when you're doing it in ceremony, you're still kind of playing with fire. But there's a safety net, and there's like a ceremonial protection and bubble from external entities. We're opening ourselves to another dimension. And in that other dimension, there's goods and bads. And we want to make sure our bubble is clean and safe and protected from negative things that could come in. And if you got something bad that's already in there and that comes out in ceremony, you want a professional practitioner to get that out. So there's a lot of, it's another reason why I don't get into that game of being a shaman, because that's exorcism is it's a situation.
But you are playing with fire. I think worse with pills for I don't know, depression or anxiety or sleeping pills. That's playing with fire like every single day with long-term side effects.
Right.
So I think plant medicine is the answer.
Right. And it's not for everybody. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who could get the right dosage, the right type that would help them. And it's better, once again, as you're saying, the pills, it's better than pharma. Once again, we live in a society that they're telling us, oh, like Western medicine is the way and everything else is just some hippie bullshit. It's like, no, to each their own. Like, okay, sure, I can use Western medicine for these things, but I don't want to take a bunch of pills and pharmaceuticals and things that are not natural in order to heal my issues. And once again, going back to COVID, and I'm sorry to bring it back to COVID and politics, they just want to heal COVID once again in that Western big pharma. Like, let's give you a vaccine. This vaccine will heal you. It's like, hey, what about boosting our immune system? What about making us all so strong that even when COVID hits you, it will just bounce right back up because
the sun.
Right, being out in the sun is like, oh no, stay indoors. It's like, yeah, but the sun's gonna like boost my immune system and the love of my friends, and there's a lot of factors that they just want to see it from a very mathematical, scientific, point of view, which makes a lot of money to these people who want to sell these vaccines and. The tech industries in that game, and etc. 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 I don't want to get into the whole big Babylon plot that you can go and observe for yourself or not. You talk about it, they call you a conspiracy theorist, but I don't know. There's issues in this world to observe, and definitely plant medicine is here to help us. So let's not block these channels of healing. And let's keep on becoming more aware and more conscious, and do the work that really resonates with us in order to find our own healing.
So the last question. In your journey with plant medicine, what are you most grateful for?
In my journey of plant medicine, what I'm most grateful for, just the love that I'm finding for myself. I was born with a couple planets. Well, actually, no, it's not planets. It's like Chiron. It's like an asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of spinning in the wrong place when I was born. So I got this Chiron asteroid that kind of influences me in a way that makes it difficult for me to love myself sometimes. So, and I guess my upbringing in Lima and different situations in my life reinforced that I wasn't to be loved. Even though I'm a great person and there's nothing wrong with me, but that was a certain trauma or mode operandus of thinking that I've been living most of my 42 years. And La Abuelita, the medicines, the plants, I'd be like, no, dude, you're fucking awesome, and that shit's just mine, and you should not fall for those lies, and come back to loving yourself and how awesome you are, regardless of any issues you may have. You're just awesome and perfect, and just go back to love for yourself. And once you love yourself, you can love others too, because you see that everything's the same thing. So that's what I'm mostly grateful for, to accept myself and to love myself, and then to be able to love everybody else to the best of my abilities. Because I'm still
Because
human.
love starts with you.
Right.
If you don't love yourself, how can you love anyone else?
Right.
So that's a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It has been a pleasure to talk to you. You're a great person, a great artist, and
Thank you.
thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, plant medicine.
Ciao.
Bye.